Should we get this thing started? Thank you for tuning in to Muse by Mariah, the podcast, where we dive deep into discussing mind, body, and soul. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Muse by Mariah, the podcast. I know it's been a little while. What's happened so far? Thanksgiving, Christmas, and a new year, 2022. 222. Very big number, very important number for angel numbers. So I figured a new episode in the new year. I needed to go big, go hard with one of my favorite guests, Miss Paulina Minucci,
Hey,
mental
everyone.
health counselor.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Here I am.
She is back, and we are better than ever.
Yes, we are.
We're going to get into a very serious topic today. But, we keep it fun. We keep it light. But, there's a big goal at the end of this. So,
For sure.
It's funny. I didn't know if I wanted to name this show relationship Red and Green Lights or Red and Green Flags. Because you think of a green light, go, red light, stop type of thing. But I decided to stick with flags because it's just been such a hot topic lately.
For sure.
So we are going to dive into relationship red and green flags with a professional mental health counselor.
You know what it is. You know how I roll.
All right, Paulina. So let's dive into red flags because
do
that's
it.
what everyone loves to talk about.
Yeah.
So a red flag is a huge metaphor for danger. Stop sign, red. Everything that you associate with something that's dangerous, bad, negative, has a red color to it. So that's something really important to note that I note. And being able to recognize these red flags in relationships can save you from heartache, anxiety, depression, stress, any
The whole
freaking
nine.
emotion.
Really the whole nine, honestly.
Then red is associated with feelings of anger, mad, kind of envy and jealousy. Like when you're jealous, you see red. You don't say you see green.
No.
I see green. No, you see red.
Yeah.
And then green flags. So a green flag is a metaphor for enter, go, continue. You have a green light, which is go. And recognizing green flags too will guide you to a happy and healthy relationship, which is important to note because red flags are talked about every single day with whatever. Sometimes been made a joke about, like if any of you guys saw the Twitter trends that was doing red. I don't even know like how that started.
It's just all over the Twitterverse,
Yeah.
honestly. It really is.
It was on TikTok too. It was a TikTok trend.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why don't we talk about green flags?
Yeah.
Because green flags are as equally important as recognizing red flags, but they're not talked about, honestly, like at all. Like when was the last time you saw, oh my God, this is such a green flag? That's a green flag in your relationship. No,
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Yeah.
Ever.
I feel like I've heard of it very rarely, but definitely not as much as because people love to, be toxicas.
Los toxicas.
They really do. And I think a lot of people like to talk about those different red flags so that way, I don't know, it's...
And some people think that's cute.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he has this red flag.
Right. Or these red flags are really starting to look orange. Or,
yeah.
or something
Wait,
like that.
That is one of my favorite tweets, even though it's totally against what we're saying. But the one, it's he's a ride at Six Flags or something.
Yeah. Or they'll put someone walking blindly, they can't see the red flags. It's a big mess.
It is a big mess, but we're here to dive into it in a positive outlook about it because we need to be able to recognize both sides of it.
Absolutely.
So like I said, that red was associated with feelings of anger, madness, envy. Green, when you think of the color green, you think of it being associated with feelings of being grounded with the earth, with nature, and at peace.
Right.
You never... Again, like I say, you don't say, I see green or I see red. It's green is usually associated that with feelings of feeling good, genuinely.
Yeah.
And we are going to do a small activity before we get into the nitty grittiness of recognizing red flags and green flags. So the activity is, if you're in your car or if you're at home, if you're in your car, you can just mentally do this. But if you're at home, definitely grab a pen and paper or write it down in your notes app on your phone, because who has a pen and paper anymore? We are going to do a list. You're going to do 2 columns. One side is going to be your red flags. The other side is going to be your green flags, and you're going to write down 3 of each. And actually, Paulina and I are going to do this exercise too with you guys. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to complete it. And then once the 3 minutes are done, we're going to go over it and we're going to talk about why it's so crucial and so important, and why this activity is really setting the tone for the rest of the episode.
100%.
So 3 minutes and then we'll come back. Okay, so does everyone have their lists? Polly and I are going to go over our lists first, and then you guys can kind of see if you have the same ones, or maybe we'll kind of like you'll be like, oh, I didn't even think of that one, but that's so true type of thing. So we can just bounce off each other, really. Right. And that's a very positive thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, I feel like we're in like a therapy session with like our virtual followers.
Right. Hey, guys.
Okay, so first, red flags list. My biggest red flag is a lack of communication. And I'm talking like the smallest little act of communication that needs to be done. Like, for example, if he or she is working all day long and they just don't tell me that, and they're not answering my text all day, and I'm like, okay, I'm ghosted. Like, that's my assumption, because I jumped in conclusions. When in reality, they could have taken 2 seconds to be like, listen, I have a really busy day. I probably am not going to be able to answer back. back
Yeah.
until tonight or
Yeah.
even tomorrow, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, takes 2 seconds to send. And that's just, God, it just irks me.
I think that also goes back to just like being considerate of like other
Of people's time.
of people's
and
time.
feelings.
Yeah, people's time and feelings because like again, it takes a very short amount of time to just be like, okay, I know Mariah is going to be waiting for my text, so let me just let her know, kind of keep her in the loop. And it's not like you have to like tell them when you're getting out of work, when you're getting to work. It's literally just saying, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And yeah, that's, and like, not, again, this is just like bouncing off of what you just said, like not being considerate is a huge red flag for me because it's like, I know I'm considerate as like a friend and like just a person in general. So if I see that lacking in my partner, I'm like, why would I even waste my time moving forward?
Yeah, keep going, because then you're basically fucking with your emotions.
Absolutely. You're disrespecting yourself at that point.
Yes,
for sure.
Exactly. And I feel like I openly communicate without even thinking, without even hesitating. I'm not like, oh, let me make sure I tell him I'm not gonna be like, I just do it because it's just part of my nature. So I feel like, yes, if it's not part of your partner's nature, it can become, but I would like it to be part of their nature, you know?
And I feel like that also is really aiding in like building a strong emotional connection too, because especially when you're communicating, and I don't want to spoil anything, but like getting into like later on, like you're not being open with like how you feel or like what you're doing. So it's like, how do you expect us to lay this groundwork for this relationship when communication is just not there?
And that builds trust. I think that's
100%.
Yeah, the kind of flip side when we talk about green flags is communication builds trust, and it easily, like, communication, again, like I said, takes 2 seconds to send a message, to make a phone call, and it's really only benefiting a relationship. You
Just
can't,
let me
you
know.
can over communicate, but over communication is kind of like a myth.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Then my second one is insecurity and jealousy. So, if he listens to this, whatever. But I had an ex who would always get so insecure about the stuff that I post, about who was liking my pictures, about this, and this. And I'm like, listen, I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do, how I feel. And you can only control how you feel. And it was just such a turnoff because they were projecting their insecurities onto the relationship and making it so negative, so toxic, and all this. And I'm just like, listen, bro, you got yourself a baddie.
Right. Period.
Pat yourself on the back. Let's go.
Right.
We're a power couple. Let's act like it.
Come on.
Let's act like it. What are we doing here?
What? Right.
Oh, such a turnoff. But there was even though he was a jerk, but he would always encourage me to like, oh, wear that, like wear whatever you want, like you don't need to put on makeup, but if you want to, you can. Like that's a positive. That's on the flip side, a positive outlook of someone who is insecure and jealous. They like just support you in anything you want to do, what you want to wear, where you want to go, what you want to post.
Because why wouldn't you want a confident woman? Or a
and vice versa,
man.
yeah.
Like, I'm never gonna, like, limit what my partner, wants to do because it's, like, that's a big
conversation. So, like, kind of a mind fuck in a way.
For sure.
In a rated R way. It's mind fucking. Because it's like, we're fine and we're together. And you're saying these things and acting this way because I want to do something. Like when Kanye bitched at Kim for posting that picture of her baking the cake in a bikini. I'm like, you fucking married Kim Kardashian.
You're good.
You're like
yeah.
I don't.
Right. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say.
The girl was too stunned to speak. Literally, I was too stunned to speak.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Yeah. No. Okay, and then my third one is excuses. Listen, at the end of the day, if shit doesn't work out, shit doesn't work out. But people who make excuses for that and kind of like beat around the bush, or they don't want to face the problem, issue, head on, like, oh
Yes.
God, such a red flag. Get over it. Like,
Yeah.
just speak your mind. We're adults.
Yeah.
Let's, again, communicate.
Yeah.
Always communicate. So
Yeah.
excuses is a huge one for me.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I'm not an excuse type of person. Okay,
Mhm.
let me say not, because I do make excuses sometimes because I'm
Mhm.
an introvert and I like to go out. So I might make an excuse as to why I don't want to go out. But when it comes to a relationship and a man, I won't make excuses just to like sugarcoat how I feel or what the
No.
situation's going on. Like,
No.
you're wasting somebody's time.
Yeah, my strongest relationships, there's no sugarcoating, like at all. Like very, very blunt, very like, bitch, we need to sit down and have a talk
Yeah.
because you're acting funny. And I think that's really important. And like
Hmm.
the other person willing to sit there and listen to why you were feeling that way or what happened is like showing love.
Yeah. Because then you feel like if man were to make an excuse as to why he can't hang out, or
Mm-hmm.
a woman why she can't hang out,
Mm-hmm.
you think, but they don't give you like a valid
Yeah.
excuse. Like,
Yeah.
you just know, like, again, your gut, your intuition is telling you that something is off, and
Yeah.
that's a red flag.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are my three. So let's hear
Mm-hmm.
yours, Paul.
My three red flags. So the first one is love bombing. Now you might be thinking, Paulina, what the fuck is love bombing? Because I didn't really know what it was either.
I didn't know what it was until she told me
Yeah.
3 minutes ago.
And as I did more research, I found that some people might think that this is like a really green flag, like, oh my gosh, like they're showing me so open like emotions like at first. But so love bombing pretty much is like if you go out on your first date or like you're talking to your partner for the first couple of weeks and they just say like, I've never met anyone like you before, I've never felt this way before, like this is so different than everything, like you're so amazing, I love you. And like saying I love you too quick is like definitely a red flag, because when you're meeting this person and if they truly are a stranger, there should be some sort of mysterious aspect to this of like getting to know them and like taking it step by step. And I feel as though if it's so much all at once, it doesn't really leave much to get to know more, I
Hmm.
guess. And I think that's definitely a red flag because I see that as being a later sign of manipulation, of saying, well, you did this, this, and this, but I love you. Why would you treat me that way? Or this is how you treat somebody you love. Oh, okay, noted. Like, I just think that that's a little off putting at first, especially in a romantic relationship for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, when she told me about love bombing, I was like, oh fuck. I feel like I feel like I do that after the first day. I'm like, wow, I'm in love with this man,
Yeah.
but like in a joking way, you know.
I love this man and I just have to
Have
have
to
I
have
have I
him.
have to have him, right?
But because I have had weirdos before, and
Mhm.
that, like you said, it can turn into other like psychological abuse.
For sure.
And if we're getting like even deeper, it can turn
Mhm.
into like stalker, like narcissism, all that
Yeah.
like serious
Yeah.
stuff. So it is a
Yeah.
huge red flag, especially if it's within like the first 1, 2, 3 dates.
Yeah.
Major red flag.
Yeah. My second one is using social media as your main form of communication, because listen, I am at the ripe age of 25. You should not be asking for my Snapchat. Do not be like, maybe we can like snap sometime. Fuck no. Red flag, get out of there, run for the hills. Because listen, like, we are grown. You should be asking me for my number. You should be asking me to take me out on a date, not what's my Snapchat. I'm not in college anymore. And I think that also lacks, or it shows that they're not taking it seriously. And look, if you just want like a fling or a fun thing and like you're cool with that, then why not? But if
Hmm.
you're looking for something like more serious with this person, or like you're interested in something more serious and that's like their first go-to,
Red flag.
yeah. I hate to
Red
break it to
flag.
you, but you gotta Gotta cut that cord.
To just bounce off of this idea that Paulina has brought up here, a red flag that I was thinking of, and this is just my personal, someone might not think it's a red flag, but when a man posts on social media, like, so much, I don't know, like, it just turns me off. It could just be a turn off, maybe not a red flag.
Yeah.
But, like, posting consistently, like, I don't know, it's a turn off.
Yeah.
But same thing with the Snapchat. Like, again, I'm not going to look good 24/7. So
Right.
I'd rather text you. Like,
Yeah.
let's be adult. We can even FaceTime. But Snapchat, what's your snap? No.
Yeah. And one of my best friends, one of like my best friends, like she's on this dating app, and if she feels that this guy's like being like creepy or just like being like immature, and they're like, "Oh, what's your snap?" She's like, "I don't have a snap." Again, 25 years old, cut that shit out. And then they're like, "Oh, haha, like what's your number then?" She's like, no, because she's like, I know what these fuckers do. They'll get my number, go on Snapchat and add me through there. And she's really cracked the code with that one, honestly. I was like, damn, like you really figured that shit out. But yeah, definitely not. My third red flag would be honestly bad hygiene. Like, again, we are grown. Learn how to take care of yourself. Learn how to do a load of laundry.
And teeth.
Fingernails
And teeth. Ew, black fingernails. Please wash your hands. Just get a manicure, please.
Yeah, and like it's not unmanly or unmasculine to get a clear coat, get your fingernails cleaned up. And some of y'all men, I'm gonna say it, your feet are nasty. Nasty. Like even my father, who is like this macho guy, like cleaned up his fucking toenails. Like it's fine. And I think that also goes into like presentation and like dressing nice and like looking presentable. I'm not asking you to wear a suit 24/7,
right?
But put yourself together,
right?
Like,
because if a man shows up to a date and it's just like a hot mess, then you can already imagine what the house or the room looks like.
Yeah.
He's definitely a man with a one pillow and probably with navy blue bed sheets. If he has navy blue bed sheets and one pillow, you need to run. You need to end the relationship right now.
Right. I left something in my car, speeds away. Like,
and never comes back. Block.
Right.
We love the block button here.
Right. I'm getting more familiar with the block button. But
I love it.
Right. My last red flag is complacency. So complacency is huge for me as a red flag because if you are not driven or motivated as like I am, it's a huge red flag because it's like, okay, we're supposed to be like hyping each other up and like really encouraging our dreams for each other and our goals. But if you don't have any of those things, then what am I just going to be the only one that's like going out there and like getting what I want? And just like complacency and complaining about not being where you are, but not making efforts.
Doing anything.
It's just like,
oh God,
again,
it's so irritating, especially being like, we are both such strong, independent women who don't need anybody.
Right.
But we would want, like, we cannot, I don't think either of us would have the patience to deal with someone who is lesser than us, but not like in like that kind of way.
Yeah,
Some of you might be like lesser. What if they're just like, whatever? No, meaning like they need to have goals. They need to be actively working towards those goals.
Yeah.
And not just kind of just skating by and, you know, taking things day by day.
Yeah.
Like we need to get something going here. Let's get something into action.
I really don't want no scrub. And I think that, again, your goals, it's not going to happen overnight, but I want to be there to support you through that. But I'm not going to nag you. I'm not your mother. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not going to nag you to do the things that you need or want to do because that's not my responsibility.
Right. Oh, God, that is such a turn off.
Goodbye.
All right, let's get into our green flags. Perfect. So my first green flag, I said communication, even though I talked about, not communicating was a red flag, but a green flag to me is major communication. If this man or this woman is sending you a good morning text, even though you fell asleep on them, boom, brownie points. Just communication. Everything to me revolves around communication. Like, that is just such a biggie, and I can just go on and on and on and into detail. Communication about, and maybe that's me being like a business person and always being on my phone and needing to answer in a concise way too, not just like an open-ended or vague thing. Or it could just be my personality, which is why I feel like I'm such a good communicator. But that is just such a biggie for me. And it's just, I hate to have to tell anyone really in general, like, listen, you should be saying this or you should be doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh God, it's so frustrating. Even with my parents, because, we're doing real estate now.
Right.
The way they talk is just like,
Right.
Not even my mom's good, but
yeah,
my stepdad, I'm like, you're speaking like English is not your first language. Like, what's going on here?
Right.
I'm like, communication. Let's learn how to communicate properly.
And again, like,
Major green flag.
I don't need my man to be texting me every second of every day, because it's like, what the fuck are we supposed to be talking about? But a huge thing for me is just knowing where you're at and like knowing that we're on the same page or we have an understanding. And you can't do that without communicating. Absolutely.
Yeah. Major.
For
Then
sure.
My next one, which is also a biggie in my book, is a man who plans. And that could be a green flag for some or not for others, but I'm a very big planner. So for me, which again, some people might not be the same thing. I'm not really a spontaneous type of person. I like my schedule planned out.
Yeah.
It makes me feel comfortable.
Me
It
too.
makes me feel happy. Like,
Honestly,
I'm
me
like
too.
achieving stuff, getting stuff done. And a man needs to understand that my schedule is usually done a week prior. Like,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing the week coming up to a T.
Right.
And maybe I have some wiggle room. So a man who like actively goes out of his way to be like, listen, let's go out here on this day at this time.
Right.
Let's go here to eat. Again, men, don't ask me where the fuck I want to eat.
I'll never
I
know.
don't know.
I will
I
never
don't know.
I will never know.
I will never know where the fuck I want to eat. If you ask me that question, you're getting ghosted. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to respond.
You're just always going to get, I don't know. What do you want to eat? And,
Yeah.
And we're just going to go back and forth, wasting time, and we could be going. So
Yeah.
It's just not in the cards for me.
So I feel like, because I like to plan stuff too, but a man who takes action, takes authority, and tries to plan out something fun to do or whatever, even if it's just like a phone call, like, oh, I'm working all day. Let's FaceTime I'll FaceTime you when I get home.
Yeah.
Boom. It's noted in my calendar or in my schedule. You get out at
Yeah.
5:00, I'm expecting a phone call. So that's my second big
For sure.
green flag.
I would agree.
And then lastly is how Paulina said hygiene. It made me think, again, a man who dresses well, because that is just such, it could also just be a turn on for me. But a man who dresses well looks like they have a good head on their shoulders, they're put together, and it really just boosts their confidence. And I feel like a confident man is a happy man, is a positive man, and
Right.
I'm confident too. So
Let's be confident together.
let's be confident together.
Yeah.
Let's make it work.
Yeah. For me, with that, with like dressing, like another one of my best friends and I like always talk about, like, if their shoe game is whack,
Shoes.
gotta go.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go. And I'm not asking you to spend thousands of dollars on like sneakers,
No,
but
let's
like,
get some Steve Madden velvet loafers in
right,
there.
throwback. Like, just like put time and effort into your appearance, because that just is so attractive to me, because it's like you actually give a shit what you look like.
Right.
So,
And it could not even be like for you. Like, let's say if I see a man posting on Instagram and he has a nice outfit, and let's say he was just out at lunch, I'm like, okay, he cares what like other people think too, or he wants to look good.
Yeah.
I mean, he might not care what other people think and just wants to look good, but it does say something else about him that's a positive thing. Whereas a man who, again, like we talked about, hygiene, comes in all fucked up, fucking black fingernails, like no
Shit in
mani,
your
no
teeth,
petty. Yeah,
like,
your teeth are all fucked up.
your
It's
shirt's
like,
fucking wrinkled. Like,
yeah.
get a steamer, steam that shit.
Let's just do something, okay?
Right.
Let's try to figure this out. But that is definitely a green flag for me, because I want to look like a hot couple.
Right. Always. Always. Like, it's a power move to even be seen with me.
Period.
So you, like, we're both coming correct. Is that all your green flags?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, my first green flag is willingly spends time with you without ignoring your other responsibilities. So, pretty much what that means is, like Mariah was kind of saying, like, making time for you, but still getting the shit that they need to get done. Like, not ignoring work or other friends, because, again, that can really turn into manipulative behaviors later on. Like, well, I didn't get any of my work done because we were hanging out. Okay, I didn't ask you to do that. Or, all of those other examples. And when a man willingly spends time with you, one of my biggest love languages is quality time. So that to me is really meaningful because you can never get that time back. So that to me is a huge green flag.
Yeah, someone who wants to open up their schedule for you is major.
Yeah, because that's communicating to me that you, even in the midst of everything that's going on, you want to see me.
Right.
And that's so attractive to me. And it opens up a lot of doors for you. Let's just say that. My second one, I would say, was being open-minded, and like the entire aspect of the word, and just like views on like anything, or like my emotions, or things that my opinions, like I don't need you to agree with everything that I'm saying, but showing me empathy is, again, a huge green flag, because being able to sit there with your partner and say, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I have experienced this kind of emotion before, and I can put myself in your shoes and really empathize with this experience. That's so comforting. That's so just, I love it. Like, my brother used to be like an emotional rock. Like, he was so cold, but then he met my lovely, probably soon to be sister-in-law, fingers crossed, Anthony, looking at you. He just turned into this big mush ball, and like everybody like experiences anxiety, and like he's probably never experienced that before, or maybe he has, I don't know, but he's able to sit there with her and be like, I don't understand maybe why you're feeling anxious, but let's talk about it. Like, I'm gonna sit here and listen to you about your day, and like all these things. So I think that in a partner is just like huge, and also a really big sign of like maturity too.
Yeah, being open-minded for me too. Same, exactly what Paulina said. That's such a green flag. But another thing that we can add to that is your partner wanting to do things that you thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Because there's some, I don't want to like gender stereotype everything, but there's some men who, like, for example, if I'm like, oh, what's your zodiac sign? Boom, you get the fucking defense. And they're like, oh, you're one of those. Why are you asking that? And I actually talked about that in my zodiac episode with Kate, how that's a red flag. We talked about that, which is funny. And then another thing, it can be like, oh, I want to play like this couples board game. Like, I'm corny. I like to do those things.
Me
like,
too.
let's do like a corny couple crossword puzzle or something.
Yeah.
And if like I want my partner to be open to doing those things, and if they're like, oh, I want to go, like, let's go to fucking like Texas or something. Let's plan like to do something that I would never do. I'm going to be open-minded and optimistic to the idea. So that's another thing that we can add on to being open-minded and optimistic.
Absolutely.
In both sides. It has to go both ways.
It has to, yeah.
Major.
Yeah. My last green flag, I think, is vulnerability. And I know, people who, like, it's, like, vulnerability is really scary, like, for anybody. And it's really a sign of, I think, courage when you're willing to put yourself out there and being like, this is, who I am, and either accept me or don't.
Yeah.
Not saying that you won't be willing to change in healthy ways, but I'm reading this book by my number one girl, Brene Brown. I will die on this hill for her. She said that our fear of vulnerability prevents us from living the life that we want to live, because so many people are scared of this uncertainty and this discomfort, which is key for anxiety, that they're not willing to just be open and kind of put their best foot forward to be like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the
Yeah.
outcome is going to be. I might be uncomfortable, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Yeah. A lot of that, I feel like when you aren't able to be vulnerable with yourself,
Oh,
that
yeah.
spews into your relationship. So
Oh, yeah.
it'll probably take a lot to do self-reflections on it
Mm-hmm.
first. So I wouldn't want someone to be hard on themselves if they're not getting it right away, because really it's
Yeah.
internally. So you have to deal with
Yeah.
it within yourself first before you can be able to
Yeah.
successfully do it with a partner and someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I always like tell everybody, like my clients, like my friends, like everybody, like you have to validate your own emotions. And like even if it was like quickly, or it like you felt it like for a day or an hour, like that was a response to
Yeah.
something. So like it was real for you. So validate that, and
Yeah.
positive self-talk in that way, and just being vulnerable and all that jazz, I think is super important. But like you were saying, it definitely starts like within yourself.
Yeah. And Paulina and I talked about this on our first episode that we did about our pain bodies. Is a lot of the times, and this being vulnerable has something to do with it, is a lot of the times you're not living in the present, which is a huge, huge thing to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Because when you're overthinking, you're creating fake scenarios in your head about something that's never happened and might never happen. You're living in the future. You're thinking in the future.
For
or
sure.
sometimes you're reflecting on situations and stuff that has happened in the past
Yes.
that maybe you need to do some work to move past that or get over it. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to live in the present in order to fully understand yourself, be within yourself, and be vulnerable with yourself, and then eventually with a partner.
Yeah.
Major key.
Major key.
Major key. So hopefully you guys, maybe you had similar ones, maybe you didn't. It's both a learning experience on each end. Because Paulina mentioned some ones that I honestly didn't even think of.
Yeah.
So I love that for us. So now we're going to kind of get into the last segment of the show, which is discussing common red flags, why we ignore red flags, and common green flags, and why sometimes ignoring green flags can be just as vital as ignoring a red flag.
Yeah.
So a major question that comes up, let's say a toxic relationship that just had red flags galore and ends up ending, or the status is changing, you feel it, like things are just different, the air, tension in the air,
vibe's just
the
different.
vibe is off. So a lot of the times it brings up feelings of self-doubt. So we start questioning what happened. And one of the biggest questions that I feel like I know I asked myself a lot when I was in a toxic relationship was, is it me?
Yeah.
Did I miss something? Like did I not recognize or respond to something I should have? And why does this keep happening to me? Because after the fucking first failed one, I thought that would be it. I thought I got my one and done, but then it's 2, 3, 4.
Right.
I can't keep up.
I don't know which way I'm going. Yeah, for sure. And I think something kind of just to like, I guess, respond to that is like, a relationship is two people, and you can't, it's not all on you. It's not just your weight that you're carrying. Like, just because this weight has been there for a while, it doesn't make it any less heavy. And you just have to recognize that it takes two to tango, and it wasn't all you.
Yeah.
It was equally shared.
Yeah. And a lot of things that can be done to help with those feelings of self-doubt, and maybe you're creating your own scenarios in your head, is journaling. So I was explaining, when we were going over this episode, I made a comment that I like patted myself on the back for, because it's so true. The reason why I love reading is because you can read emotions.
Yes.
So when you're journaling, let's say I feel really sad one day and I journal about it, and then I maybe go back on it like the next week, next month, next year. You can feel those emotions when you're reading the page. So I think that's a huge step in, which is why both of us preach journaling so
Absolutely.
much. Because you're able to see your growth and you're able to see how you feel. And again, like you said, it's really important to validate our emotions.
Yeah.
You can do that by journaling.
Yeah.
So being able to read your own feelings is such like a crucial part, because you can believe me, I look at shit that I wrote and I'm like, why the hell was I upset
Right.
over that?
Girl,
Like,
like,
thank God
yeah.
I journaled this and I didn't fucking like
Thank
publicize
God,
this
right.
because this is
Oh,
embarrassing.
right. Oh, my goodness.
But that's such an important way to
Yeah.
is journaling. And I know some people are like, oh, like, I don't know, some people don't like to write, which I
Yeah.
never liked to write either until I found like I like it. I have a passion for it. But
Yeah.
other ways you can do it is by listening to music too, but like feel good music, not no
Yeah.
fucking like Pop Smoke and Kanye West. Don't get me wrong, love them.
Right.
But let's listen to some feel good music that has honestly, if you look up like I'm creating right now a vibe out playlist that
Love
has
that.
all feel good music, and some of the songs have frequency levels. I researched this
Oh, cool.
that make you that rise your vibrations and your frequency.
That's really
because it has
cool.
like I think it's 532 hertz or 432. Again, don't hold me to it.
Yeah.
But listening to feel good music or art, people express themselves through art too,
Yeah.
which can be a form of journaling.
Yeah.
You can paint how
Yeah.
you're feeling, which is major. I wish I was an
Yeah.
artist, but I
Yeah.
can't even do a stick man.
Girl, me either.
At least I'm creative mentally.
Definitely. We have that going for us.
So now we'll get into some of the common red flags in relationships. So the first one that I actually researched all of this, so we can kind of connect with our list that we did,
Yeah.
and you can connect with your list that you've done and kind of see the similarities between it.
Right.
So the main common red flag in relationships is problems in communication.
Would you imagine that?
Someone clap if you're surprised. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Crickets.
Communication, such a big one.
Yeah. It's really just the foundation for everything. Everything. Trust. Like I could go on and on and on. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such a huge aspect of any relationship. Friendships,
Yep.
partners, family members. Like, you have to be able to communicate. You have to. Like,
Yeah.
It's
Even with yourself.
even
Because when if
That
you're
was
speaking to
powerful.
someone,
that was really powerful.
thank you, thank you.
Right.
When you're like talking to someone, let's say like I'm feeling sad, but I don't say that to you.
Yeah.
You're lying to yes, I'm lying to you, but you're lying to
Yeah.
yourself, and that's like the most important thing. So being able to
Yeah.
communicate with yourself, and again, I'm saying this again because it's something that I say to myself all the time when I'm feeling a certain way, is validating what I'm feeling.
Yes.
I'm feeling this way because. And you have a reason for it. Like,
Yeah.
so huge. Being able to communicate with yourself, being able to communicate with others.
Yeah. And just like checking in.
Major.
Yeah, just like checking in with yourself. Like, if you feel off or you feel just different, just be like, what's going on in my life that's like triggering this? Like,
These feelings, yeah.
Yeah. Like, in the last episode that we did together, I had mentioned that I get a lot of anxiety around change. So I have one, great friends that like hold me accountable for a lot of things, and two, you just really have to kind of sit down with yourself and say, I'm feeling a little off, I'm feeling more anxious than usual, like, what's going on? And just like talking to yourself like you would like a best friend.
Yep. I think that's one of the things that I've done a lot this past year, which is why
Yeah.
I'm in such a good mental space. Like
Yeah.
when I was doing my vision board today, I was like getting a little emotional because I had one picture that I put on that vision board in January, and it was a picture of me, and it was when I was really sad and depressed. And the reason I put that on my vision board because I guess the what's the fucking word? Like the goal of the picture
Yeah.
was for me to be happy with myself, do some self-reflection, and I really wanted
Yeah.
to grow spiritually. So I really wanted to change a lot of the things perspectives that I looked on negatively and figure out how I can change them positively and really work with myself. So I ended up taking that picture off today, and I was like, getting a little emotional because I was like,
Yeah.
I am so happy. I'm so happy with
Yeah.
myself, who I am, who I'm surrounded by. I've made a lot of changes. A lot of people aren't in my life anymore, and it's 100% for the better.
Yeah.
I have grown so much as a person, and
Yeah.
I'm like, so I put another picture on there of me, happy as fuck.
Purred.
And I put, I am aligned with my purpose. Because I was like, this is
Absolutely.
major. What a
Absolutely.
year did for me, I'm like in the best
Yeah.
mental headspace I've ever been. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't even remember why I brought that up, but let's go on to number 2.
But we love it. We love growth.
So number 2 is unhealthy boundaries. So I actually bought this book called Boundaries, which talks about, but it's like, it's one of those books where it's not just like throwing at you facts and things that you can do. It's like a storyline to it. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard a lot of good things. So when I do, I will get back to it, because setting boundaries is something that I struggle with, not only in like romantic relationships, but work relationships too. It's so important to set boundaries, because people will take
100%.
advantage of you and they will replace you in 2 motherfucking seconds.
Yeah. And especially just like work boundaries, because you have a life and you are entitled to your life outside of work. And especially being that we're young, I think that people, not that we're not eager, but I think people expect us to kind of work ourselves to the bone.
To prove our point.
Right.
Yeah,
when
to
it's
get
like,
to where Lucy is at fucking 54 years old, still in the same place.
Like,
come on.
my work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And it's of quality. So I don't need to stay all night to show you that.
Right. And I think the way you can set healthy boundaries with your partner is by sitting down and talking about it. Have a dinner or something, have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And just kind of write down, listen, like, I need at least one day of the week to do me things, get my nails done, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
Partner should be able to understand that.
Yeah.
And a guy too. If a guy is like, oh, like, I want to hang out with my boys once a week or once every 2 weeks.
That's fine.
That's setting a boundary that needs to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, again, communication.
Yeah. It all goes back to that.
Yes.
It really does. It really, really
It does. And I actually got, have you ever heard of We're Really Not Strangers? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So I got that when I thought I had a man, but I never opened it. It's literally still packaged.
Psych.
And, but that's a really good card game for like talking about different topics that like you would kind of find hard to bring up.
Yeah.
So if you are in a healthy relationship right now, I would look into getting that card game because it's really cool. The concept of it is amazing. Love it. Still packaged. Once I opened it, I will literally make a post about it because it'll be a fucking crucial moment. Right. The third one is, which Paulina talked about a lot too, is mental health problems such as gaslighting, manipulation, verbal and physical abuse, and narcissism too. That's such a huge one. And sometimes it can be like, God, I had it on the top of my tongue. It can be like a little like mouse in the wall. I don't know if that's the right saying, but like it can eventually creep up to the point where, okay, now you're realizing that this is gaslighting.
Yeah.
Like, he shouldn't be, like, this is abuse. But sometimes it can be masked to the point where you don't recognize it for long periods of time.
And I think it's important. It's really, really important that we, like, not overgeneralize what these terms are, because like, oh well, gaslighting, it doesn't look like what's happening to me, but it's what happened to, you know, my friend or somebody I saw on like TV or something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be just like textbook definitions. Like, if you feel that this is happening to you, then it's happening. Like, it's real. So
And I remember I brought that up to someone who I was dating. I was like, you're being like a narcissist right now. The things that are coming out of your mouth are very abusive. And they got so defensive about it. And I'm like, but listen to what you're saying. Like, really stop and listen to what you're saying. And then they called me mentally unstable. So I'm like, I'm the mentally unstable one now. Okay, whatever. But
people will really think that people will feel attacked when they're not ready to take accountability.
Yep. And they never usually take accountability.
No,
that person to this day has never taken accountability. And I did multiple times for what? I don't know. I just felt like I needed to for something. But they never did. And usually they never will. So that's a big one. And that's really important to recognize because it can just lead to all kinds of nasty things you don't want to experience.
No, ma'am.
4 is pressure. So feeling pressure maybe to move on to the next stage or to say something that maybe you don't feel comfortable saying right now. Maybe it's too soon or whatever. And it was funny because when I was researching this, I came across one that kind of went hand in hand with being pressurized, is that a word? Which is another common red flag is someone who overshares personal details quickly.
Yes.
Which when I read that, I was like, oh God, like, why couldn't I fucking like start my podcast like years ago and do all this years ago? Because I would have saved myself so much heartbreak.
But you're better for it now.
100%. But
Right.
still, a girl can think. A girl can dream, you
Right.
know?
Right.
But because there was one time I was telling Pauline I was on a date. It was a second date. So second dates, you're still getting to know each other. Like, what do you
Yep.
like to do in your free time? Like,
Yeah.
this man, like, was trying to dive so deep into my exes and my past relationships. I'm like, bro, I don't even know your fucking last name yet.
Right.
Why do you want to know all this information?
Right.
And at the time, I felt very, very uncomfortable. You would have thought I would have left, but no, I didn't. And reading that, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I knew it at the time and I didn't
Yeah.
listen to my gut. And I remember when things were ending and we were like kind of going back and forth about things, that was something that he brought up, that on that exact date that he found it a red flag that I wasn't sharing information about my past. And I'm like, bro, it was the second date.
Yeah.
I don't even know you. Like, why
Yeah.
should I tell you everything about my past?
Exactly.
Ooh, that was a big one
That's
for me.
so huge because again, it's like I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you so comfortable sharing all of these intimate details? And I think again going back to that, it's like, you know, tell me about your exes, tell me about your past relationship. I think that's a red flag too because then that person might take that and say, okay, I just have to do a little bit more than what their ex did, and then they'll think that I'm like the best partner in the whole entire world when it's not really genuine what they're doing. They're just trying to maybe one up the last person or something along those lines.
Yeah. And again, the ex talk is something that should come up if you want to be in a serious relationship. But like, let's plan it like 5 dates at least, not the second date.
Yeah.
And it was funny because another thing that he said, which was I actually wrote in my Signed You're Dating a Narcissist article, that one of the major things that narcissists say is that their exes were crazy. And he said that on that date when he was trying to make me fucking tell him everything about my past.
Right.
And I'm like, God, there were so many signs that I know now.
That
and
just,
I'm like,
that just goes back to like not taking responsibility because again, a sign of a mature relationship is being able to sit there and recognize what your role was in why the relationship ended or why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It, you know, it might not have been equal, but you know, you definitely played a part in it.
Right.
So
Exactly. God, I just wish I knew those things then that I
right.
know now. And then lastly, the fifth one is problems spewing into your other relationships. So, like another red flag that we can talk about is when men don't get along with their mom. This is not for every man out there, but I've met a good amount of men who don't get along with their mom, and there's issues that you can see at the way they treat women.
Yeah. Or the flip side, when they're like too much of like mama's boys, where it's like,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's like a lot of the times when that comes up, when you're like so attached to your mother or like you need to check in with her, like that to me is like, that's a sign of insecurity because it's like you can't move forward without checking in with somebody else.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that in our drafts, but that is a good one.
Yeah.
And it is kind of, I mean, I hate to gender stereotype, but if I try to say that sentence, problem spewing into other relationships, I guess maybe you can say for a woman is the way they treat their friends. Like if a woman goes to you, like let's say I'm the boyfriend and you're the girlfriend and you come to me talking shit about your friends and then you go and hang out with them.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah. Or when
which is a red flag.
Yeah. Or when anybody, doesn't matter the type of gender, like when you act differently around your friends or your family that you do around me. Because it's like, of course, your behavior is not always going to be the same, but you shouldn't turn into a completely different person.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, well, who is like the real you? Like,
right.
Am I getting the real you?
How many faces do I need to know?
Right.
How many people do I need to meet within one person?
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, that's a huge one. And then, so kind of to just summarize all of that, I'm guilty of it. You're probably guilty of it. You are guilty of it. Is ignoring these red flags. Why do we as humans ignore these red flags? And yeah, there were some things that I found on the internet, but I'm just going to share personally how I feel. which I'm still not over that. And I guess I'm going to have to find another man to figure out if I am. But until then, we'll keep it open-ended.
Right, keep the cards going.
But I feel like I'm a healer. So I
Mm-hmm.
attract people who are damaged in some kind of way. And I am optimistic that they
Mm-hmm.
will get over it and that I will help them get over it.
Yeah.
So I'm always optimistic in relationships. I always have wishful thinking. I always give
Mm-hmm.
that person the benefit of the doubt, no matter how
Yep.
crazy or triggering it can be. And that
Mm-hmm.
it ends up hurting me. And it has hurt me in
Yeah.
every single situation and every
Mm-hmm.
single relationship that I've done that to.
Yeah.
And I'm also the type of person who's very, very loyal. So
Yep.
for me I've never left a relationship. I just don't. I don't know. I'm strong, but I don't know how to fucking do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I can't leave until something like a piece of information that is so vital has to hit me in the face
Yeah.
in order for me to leave. Like
Mm-hmm.
the last guy I was with literally had to get engaged for me to leave. I was like, all right, I guess he's over it.
See you later.
But it
Right.
was 2 weeks after we stopped talking. So
Yeah.
I guess I can't put the blame on myself at all.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel, that I'm a
Yeah.
healer.
Yeah. I definitely would agree. And I think that what my career is as a therapist, a big part of my job, especially with my patients, is, problem solving. And I think that that's kind of carried into my own personal life, especially in relationships, because I definitely overcompensate when I feel emotionally reassured in some way. So if I feel that somebody has validated my emotions or shown interest in my emotions, I'll kind of ignore their
Mm-hmm.
behavior or maybe shady ways that they're acting, because I feel like, oh, well, they care about my emotions. Yeah, Paulina, but they did this, this, and this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
stop ignoring all of these things. And just like kind of taking myself out of the situation and looking at it in the bigger picture, like, where do I go from here? And like recognizing the control that I have in a relationship and, you know, like deserve to have in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Because I think that's definitely affected me in like a lot of different ways.
Yeah. But again, we'll have to see.
We'll have to see.
Time will tell.
Time will
Who
definitely
wants
tell.
to test the waters?
Right. Right.
All right, let's get on to our green flags. So the top 5 common green flags in a relationship. Again, clap if you're shocked, but number 1 is open communication.
Crickets.
Exactly. So something that I said that a lot of couples should talk about is discussing your love languages. So you have brought it
Oh,
up
yeah.
earlier that yours was quality time
Mhm.
and mine is gift giving. Which is funny because your last one is gift giving and my
Yep.
last one is quality time for
Mhm.
different reasons.
Yeah.
But it's extremely important to know what your partner's love language is
Yeah.
because the way that they give love is the way that they want to receive love. So,
Mhm.
for example, if you and I were dating and we have complete opposites, I would have to figure out how
Yeah.
to make you feel comfortable
100%.
with spending quality time, even though I don't need that or maybe enjoy that, and you need to realize that I like to give gifts. So it's
Yeah.
like it's very important to
Yeah.
discuss in relationships.
Especially because when you do discuss your love languages and you have that understanding, then it'll again just open those doors and open everything for communication. Because when you don't know that, it can be confusing and like, well, why are they not doing
Yeah,
this?
like why are they offended? Like if I got him a
Yeah.
gift and he's like, ew, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I cry in my room, and I'm like, this is how I show
Yeah.
you love.
Yeah, and like we're not mind readers, so like having that communication is so important.
Yeah, like
So,
I've read so
important.
many stories of people, physical touch is a big one. So for people who
Mm-hmm.
don't like physical touch, and then if their partner does,
Yeah.
that's a very weird thing that they have to go through in order to become comfortable with the love
Yeah.
languages. So
Yeah.
I've read a few stories about that. Good
Yeah.
thing that's not mine, but we'll see. The second one is setting healthy boundaries again.
100%.
Because setting healthy boundaries, self-care, self-respect,
Self-respect.
which we brought up disrespecting yourself too. You might not
Mm-hmm.
realize that you do it sometimes, but it does
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
So again, setting healthy boundaries. You can even sit down with your partner and write a
Mm-hmm.
list about things, like how
Yeah.
we even said it before, like if a guy wants to hang out with his friends once a week, maybe on football Sundays or whatever, like,
Yeah.
okay,
That's
that's
fine.
fine. Then I shouldn't be getting upset when he wants to do that. And then if
Right.
I need my alone time or I need my girl time, that's setting a
Mm-hmm.
boundary too. He needs to be
Right.
able to understand that,
Yeah.
and vice versa. Huge.
Yeah.
Third is you genuinely feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of a hard one because I kind of talk about it and why green flags might hurt us, because we think to ourselves, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
And that ultimately leads to self-sabotage, which
Mm-hmm.
is another thing that can be a huge consequence of not recognizing green flags.
Yeah.
And same thing as not recognizing red flags. So
Yeah.
self-sabotage, I don't like to put timelines on things, but you'll usually realize within like the first few weeks, maybe the first 1 to 3 months, if you're self-sabotaging, you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, everything is just so perfect. This guy has to be like a murderer.
Right.
Or he's like a fucking serial killer.
Right.
That's what I would
It
think.
has to be true. Right.
But that's a huge one. And again, you can journal. Like when I get into a relationship, I
Mm-hmm.
plan on journaling how I feel,
Oh
like
yeah.
significant feelings that I have. So I can always go back to that and see, like,
Yeah.
okay, why do I, like, I'm creating these scenarios in my head that are self-sabotaging me, my
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And it all really comes down to, I feel like, your unconscious mind just protecting itself from getting hurt again
Hmm.
and not wanting to go through that. Because if you've been through heartbreak, girlies, you
Yeah,
know,
it's not worth
like,
it.
right, it's just like, I would never want to feel like that again.
Hmm.
Just like all of those terrible and horrible feelings that we have to go through to get to the next phase, but nonetheless, it's our body's way of like protecting itself and being
Hmm.
like,
And our mind and our soul, mind,
yeah,
body, soul.
yeah. So that's definitely a big one. But
Yeah.
yeah,
To get over that, you can definitely do some self-reflection too. So if you feel like
yeah,
you're self-sabotaging, you
mm-hmm,
can try to find the root of why you're
yeah,
self-sabotaging.
absolutely,
And that can be, again, journaling maybe some past experiences that you went through, like, oh,
mm-hmm,
well, when it hit 2 weeks in last relationship, like, I was already, like, it just is a pattern. Like, you kind
yeah,
of create a pattern in your head.
yeah,
So you can self-reflect on the past,
for sure,
and try not to live in the future.
yeah.
You don't need to. You don't need to be there right now.
Live in the now. It's pretty great.
Number 4 is their words do match their actions.
Ooh,
Major
I
key.
love that shit.
This also can be a little bit tricky because
Yeah.
both men and women can sometimes have a hard time expressing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like we're all grown enough to tell when someone's trying and not trying. So if
Yeah.
someone's saying that they're going to do something and then their actions like are completely doing the opposite, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
So, how we talked about it earlier was empty promises.
Yeah.
Oh, those just piss me the fuck off.
Cause why say it? Like, why
Because
even?
they want to make you feel good.
Yeah.
They want to satisfy you for the moment.
And I think that a lot of the times with empty promises, that's someone's way of kind of keeping you around
Yes.
and saying like, oh well, we're gonna do this like once this happens. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not gonna happen.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And it ends up, it's like, okay, a week later, okay, a
Mm-hmm.
month later,
Right.
okay, months later. Now
Yeah.
we're still at square one, like nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. And oh God, it just makes me so angry. I remember I told one guy and I was like, you're saying something, but you're not doing what you're saying.
Yeah.
And they just like could not comprehend it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, like I would want someone to check me if I was
Yeah.
saying something and my actions weren't aligning. Like
100%. And
I give you permission to check me.
Right.
You too, Paulina.
Yeah.
You can check me.
Oh, sure. And like those actions that they do actually do are genuine, because I feel like a lot of the times when you do check somebody and you say, well, you said that we were going to do this or, whatever, they'll take like the smallest example of that and be like, well, I did this or
Right.
this happened. It's like, that's not the point. Like,
Right.
that's not what I'm trying to say. So
You don't
definitely,
want to have to ask.
yeah. Yeah. You should never ask to be respected.
Mm-hmm. Or
Ever.
validated
Or
either.
validated.
We're grown enough to just
Yeah.
say you like me, you don't like me.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's not do this. Like
Yeah.
I don't get what's so difficult
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
And then the last one is kind of going off number 5 for the common red flags. 5 for the common green flags is encouraging healthy relationships with others.
Yes.
Wanting your significant other to branch out to family members or friends that maybe they don't talk to as often.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If a
Yeah.
man is, like how we mentioned red flags, if a man is like, I don't like your mom. Like, I don't want to hang out with her. I don't want to do this. And then that's like putting a strain on your personal relationship with your family member.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag. But the opposite of that is a man who encourages it. Like, oh, let's go see your mom this week. Oh, let's go see my mom this week. That is a green flag.
Yeah. And
green for go.
Yeah, definitely. And that also goes back to one of my green flags is like spending time with me, but not ignoring like your other relationships. Because it can't just be me and you. You know, you have to have that other social support, whether that's with family, friends, coworkers, like whatever. Like you have to be able to have that.
Yeah, and I think, you know what, this just came up that I'm thinking about it. Another red flag is if your partner or significant other doesn't want to meet the people closest to you.
Oh my God.
Why didn't we talk about that?
That's huge.
That is huge because that is huge. Such a sign that they don't want to take things well, let me not make an assumption, but I might make an assumption that they don't want to take things further.
Yeah, or they don't want to meet other people, or they keep you away from your other relationships so that way they're just the only person in your life.
Yeah.
That is I can't believe you didn't talk about that.
I know.
That's a huge red flag. Too many. Yeah, too many.
Too many to go over.
Yeah, but that's huge because, again, you need that social support. You need that girl time or you need that boy time. Like, it's so vital.
Yeah, and someone who cares about you and wants to be in your life would want to meet and understand and know the people who care so deeply to you too that are not your partner.
Yeah.
Major red flag that we didn't go over, but there we go. We just briefly went through it.
Right.
So that was it for the top 5. So I think 2 of my biggest things, which I forgot to mention earlier when we did our activity, is because green flags are not talked about as much. I know for me personally, when I was doing my list, that it took me a lot longer to come up with green flags than it did for red flags. So if you felt like that happened to you and you were making your list, take a note of that and reasons why that is. When you're talking about red flags with your partners, friends, family, whatever, make sure you talk about green flags too, because it needs to be something that's more spoken about.
For sure.
Because it's not all about red flags, people.
Yeah, and relationships are supposed to be like fun and like just like you're supposed to have fun in a relationship. So if you're only focusing on the negative, that's what you're going to attract.
Yeah, and exactly. I don't even need to add on to that because that's what you're going to manifest, a bad toxic relationship. You just keep thinking about negatives, or if you keep just dwelling on the past, on past relationships. I know it's easier said than done, but we got to grow and we got to move on and we got to not shut ourselves off just because we went through something traumatic, because not everyone is bad out there.
No.
And lastly,
definitely not.
The last thing is to listen to your gut and intuition. And I know my gut thinks I'm a dumb bitch because I never listen to her.
Right. She's like, bitch, listen to me once in a while, please. My God.
I never listen to her. And she's probably like, this is what you get. This is your karma. Because I know and I always feel it. And like I said before, I will not do anything about it until it literally slaps me in my face. And
I've been there.
It's a bad trait that I have, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think that for me, my biggest piece of advice and kind of just takeaway from this overall great conversation is just understanding and knowing that you are going to sleep with yourself every night. You go to bed with yourself every night for the rest of your life. So being comfortable in your own decisions, and it doesn't matter like what other people say or what other people's opinions are, like you have to do what's right for you. So just really validating your emotions and respecting yourself, because every time you go back to a situation that does not serve you anymore, you are disrespecting yourself.
Yep.
So,
and that situation will keep happening until you
learn lesson.
Because it's a lesson.
Right.
Period. Amen, sister.
Right.
Well, thank you guys for tuning into the first episode of the new year. I wanted to, like I said, start out big. I wanted to start out bold. And I feel like the 2022 this year is all about growing. 2021, it was about self-reflection. Now that we
sure.
know what kind of people we are,
Yep.
it's time to just grow, and we're
Yeah.
not settling for anything that's lesser than what we deserve, lesser than
Period.
what we want, and got to make sure it's vice versa too. So
Yes,
for all the
ma'am.
men and women out there, hopefully you can take a small piece of information that we have provided today.
Yeah.
And
Plant
if you
the
did,
seed.
yeah, and if you did write your list and you happen to get into a relationship in, let's say, August or something, maybe you can look back on this list and see what is checking the boxes and what's
Right.
not checking the boxes.
Right.
Is he checking 3 red flags and 1 green flag? We got to weigh out our options
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But, and if you didn't do the activity, you can always do it on your own.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually also going to post an article with this episode, just
Okay.
kind of summarizing our red and green flags and what they are, our definitions. So make sure you check that out and stay tuned, because I will hopefully be posting more episodes consistently for the new year.
Right.
And thank you, Paulina, for joining
Of
me. You are always a
course.
great pleasure.
Of course.
Love having you.
Always a good time.
So yeah, thanks guys.
Bye, everyone.
Love me.